Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to the last installment in the N-scale railroad build. Yes, I said that. This is the last episode of this particular project. If you're watching last week, you will have seen me get a small area of scenery finished. This week, I'm going to get the layout dismantled and packed up for shipping. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and get busy.
Well, today is Wednesday. It is the last Wednesday in September, so it's the late 20-somethings. Not quite sure what the date is, but the task for today is to start dismantling the railroad prior to collection by the client's moving company that he hired. Originally, there was talk of me renting a U-Haul and driving it there, taking a detour on my trip, but we decided to go with the professional moving company instead. Yesterday, I cleaned off this end of the workbench. If you recall, the last time you saw it, it was a big mess. These 3 boxes will be going. That's just empty boxes there. But I think I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. The first task will be to remove all the backdrops along the upper level, and then I'll go back around the back of the railroad and basically take it apart in the reverse order to what it was built. I don't know how many clips I'm going to make during the day, probably not many, although I hope to remember to take a few photographs. So don't go away, I will see you later. Well, I have now disassembled the entire top deck of the railroad. There it is, all stacked in the middle of the workshop. Before I continue, I need to install another pair of feeders. It's not the pink and grey like I thought it was going to be originally, it's the blue and white. And that's basically the entire reason I didn't do them earlier, because I wasn't completely sure what colours they had to be. Because it does not belong to the upper helix over here, it belongs to the start or the end of the upper canyon scene. It's part of that section. The isolated rail joiners are right there in frame now. So that is where the helix starts and the canyon ends. So I'm going to install those and test them before I continue, and I'll be right back. Don't go away. Well, those 2 feeders are now installed, and they are hooked up down here, and I have run a locomotive across the section joint and back again, or across the power district boundary and back again. And everything works, proving that I have the wires the right way around. I had to do that test because the last time I took it for granted that I had it right, I didn't, and it was most embarrassing. Anyway, with that tested, I can put the locomotive and the control system away and continue the disassembly. Well, I've probably got about 3/4 of it torn apart, or taken apart. So I've made good progress today, or would it be just the opposite? Congress. But I've been out here more than 9 hours and I need to go sit down, get some food, and also feed Zeus. So I'm going to come back out and continue tomorrow. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Well, I have now separated the piece with the scenery on it from the helix core. Got a couple of temporary legs in there, and I just slid it back by walking it a little bit at a time. And now I've got to figure out how to get it safely down on the floor and off its legs without damaging it. I think the way to do that is going to be to remove the temporary legs and then tilt it down this way where the staging yard module is now. So if that's the case, then I've either got to turn it all the way around or I've got to dismantle this portion first. Actually, with the 3 permanent legs still in that corner, in that far corner, and properly braced, it's pretty easy to move this corner as far as I need to. So I'm going to turn it round and get it out of the way that way. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Well, that was pretty easy. The next bit probably won't be. I've got to get these 2 temporary legs out. This one's also going to be in the way, but that is permanently attached to this one, so those 2 have to stay. And also, I think the bracing on there is necessary to avoid those legs buckling when I tilt it. So it will go down this far corner first, with this one still up in the air, and then I'll lie it on its end and remove those legs. Before I do that, I need to protect these rail ends. I did this end last time I came out here. So let me get back to work and I'll check in with you later. Don't go away. But before removing those two temporary legs, I put one more temporary leg in the middle, so it's now properly supported, and now I can just support the weight of the bench weight with one hand while I remove the clamp with the other, and I should be able to lower it down in a controlled manner. So let me do that quickly and I will be right back. Well, that was easy enough. What I've got to do with it now is remove these legs and then put it on the cart to move it over to where the rest of the sections are being stockpiled. So let me do that quickly and I will continue with the last piece. Don't go away. Now that I've finished taking care of the scenic piece, all that is left is the main helix core. Here it is. The bar clamps are there because I goofed up when I built this piece of backdrop. I took a lot of care to ensure that it could be removed and then replaced in exactly the right spot. And then afterwards I ended up building this upper frame which locked it in place. Initially I thought it was just this block that was locking it, so I cut it out, figuring that the backdrop would then come out and the client could easily splice it in situ. But it turns out that it's this upper frame that's blocking it as well. Not to worry, I did some measurements and I found that from the bottom of the frame to the top of these tabs is still within tolerance just. It's about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the maximum dimension that the client gave me. And I know that's too tight for comfort, but these tabs can be cut off. See, there are 3 screws on each one, joining the upper frame in place. And if it's too tight, the client can just cut it off about 1/2 inch above those 2 bottom screws, and it will still be secure and fit down the stairwell a lot more easily. In fact, come to think of it, I'm just going to cut those off now where it's easy. So let me do that and I will be right back. Something else I took care of this morning was laying 2 lengths of track through this area. The reason being is that it's a lot easier to access it now from behind than it will be for the client to install it once the layout is rebuilt in his train room. Well, the glue under this track has now dried, so all that remains to do is to get this piece on the ground. I suspect that it's quite heavy, so doing it by myself without damaging it is going to be quite critical. I think the plan is to leave this pair of legs firmly attached, remove these completely, and then take all the screws out for these. Then I can lift this slightly using this upper level as a handle, a very convenient handle actually, and then once these legs fall out I can just lower it carefully onto this lower edge, and then with that side on the ground I can tip it up on its back surface, get this surface on the floor, and I can remove those 2 last legs. So that is the plan. Let me get underneath it on the creeper and get to work. Don't go away. Well, that was pretty easy. It turned out to be nowhere near as heavy as I thought it was going to be. So let me just remove those last 2 legs, put it on the cart, and wheel it down to the other end of the workshop where it can sit with all the rest of the pieces. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Don't go away. Well, this is where the railroad used to stand. If I turn around, we can see that it is all stacked in the middle of the floor, ready for collection. All I can do now is wait for the movers to arrive. It is Thursday, October 5th, and I have a moving truck just backing up my driveway at the moment to collect the railroad,
and take it up to the client's home further north of here. So let's just get it loaded. I guess it's time to start playing 3D Tetris again. Well, that is all for this video, and of course it's all for that project too, because with the railroad already packed up and on its way north, I will not be seeing it again. At least I'm not expecting to anyway. The client will be assembling it himself, and the plan is also for him to complete the track lay and scenery himself too. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this series, and I hope to see you back next time. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, but I'm sure it'll be fun. So in the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.